Hi guys, welcome back to Yarn and Needles. Today I thought I'd do something a little bit different to a tutorial and do a knitting tag. And I've seen a couple of these videos on YouTube, but I was saddened by how short they were and I wanted to answer more questions about knitting. So I've kind of built on some of the tags that already exist and I've added a few questions of my own. So I've got the questions on my phone here, and I'll just get into it. So number one, how long have you been knitting for? I've been knitting for just under a year and a half. I started basically because I was bored and I'd done some crafty bits and pieces prior to that. However, I wanted to challenge myself a little bit more. Number two, who taught you how to knit? I used YouTube videos to learn how to knit. I was taught by my grandmother like when I was probably about 7. However, I was shown once and never did it again. So yeah, I took to YouTube and I also bought a couple of books to help me, but it was mostly YouTube videos that taught me how to knit. Number 3, have you ever taught anybody how to knit? Yeah, kind of. I did show my sister how to knit, and I also showed my boyfriend how to knit, and they both still knit to this day, so I guess that does count for something. Do you do any other crafts? Yeah, I also crochet. I actually started to learn how to crochet a few years ago, however, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. So once I'd actually started knitting for a few months, and I had to buy a crochet hook anyway to do certain things, I was like, oh, this makes sense now. So yeah, I also crochet, and I used to make like little stuffed toys out of felt and stitch them up together, but really nowadays I just knit and crochet. So next question, do I have any other hobbies? No, I don't. What are your favourite things to knit? Small things. I'm definitely a project knitter, as it were. So I've done loads of hats. I really like doing cowls because, you know, you get the same functionality out of them as a scarf. However, you don't have to knit for bloody ever. I got really into doing fingerless mitts about a month or so ago. I really like those. So yeah, small things really, that keeps me going. What is my worst knitting habit? I'd say if I have to sew or seam pieces together, I won't finish it. I've got a really gorgeous lacy top, which is basically, it's just 2 panels, it's like a rectangle shape, 2 rectangles, and I just need to seam it up, but yeah, I haven't done that, and I really wanted to wear it like summer just gone, so yeah, that was a bit of a fail. I also don't swatch, which has been to my detriment, I'll admit. I've got a jumper which took me for bloody ever to make, but it's way too big for me. It's just like, it's like I'm wearing a potato sack. So yeah, I don't do that. How many whips or works in progress do you have right now? I've got the top that I haven't sewn up. I've got a stuffed toy, which is for a friend. Got some socks on the go. I've got 2 pairs of socks on the go actually, and then a scarf. So I've got 5, which is okay. I think that's okay. What type of needles do you like to use? I really like using circular needles regardless of whatever projects I'm doing, and I use the Knit Pro Symphony wooden ones. I do really like using wooden needles. As long as the wood's quite smooth, I like that. I think it's a nice balance between having something that grips your stitches but also allows you to like work quite quickly. What are your favourite types of yarn? I love all sorts of different yarn. I love variegated yarn, not necessarily striped. I've got to be in a particular mood to have something stripy. but variegated yarn. I like really soft yarn, chunky-ish yarn. I'd say anything above like a worsted weight for me, I sort of gravitate towards, because I like being able to finish a project relatively quickly. However, some sock yarn is absolutely gorgeous, and I do have some sock yarn which I am really excited to use. Just love yarn. Where do you get your knitting supplies from? Mostly Love Knitting. I really like Love Knitting. Don't have a great relationship with Hermes, their courier service. Where I live, they tend to be a little bit like flaky, like they'll say they've come when they haven't and so on, but I do really like Love Knitting. I like going into John Lewis and just looking at the wall of yarn that they have in there, like especially all the luxury yarn. I really like that. And then I like going into like little craft shops. There's a little yarn shop just up the road from me which I like to pop into. However, when I go into places like that, I nearly always come away with something, so it's a little bit dangerous. But yeah, I've been quite good recently with yarn, actually, I think. Do you knit for others / do you knit for Christmas or birthday presents? Yes, I do. I'd say, I mean, I don't tend to buy presents for a great deal of people, partly because I'm a bit of a loner, and also just as like a money saving exercise. Well, that's what it started off as. When I'd sort of graduated from university, like the first time around, I didn't have any money. It took me ages to get a job, so that's when I started doing the like little felt plushy things, and I gave them to people as presents. And then now that I've learned how to knit and crochet, I knit for them. So last year was my first year of knitting as gifts, and everyone got a hat. And I am doing presents this time around, and there are a couple of hats in there, but I've sort of branched out a little bit and done some projects which require a little bit more, skill and technique. So that's nice. I like to think that if I was receiving these gifts from me, you'd see like a progression in my skill. But we shall see. That's for them to decide. Which knitting techniques do you love and which do you loathe? I love working with lace. Relatively simple lace, because I'm still quite new to lace in general and more sort of advanced techniques. But I love lace. I think it's really pretty. And even with just like a simple lace repeat, you get such a nice effect. What do I loathe? I am a little bit shy of cabling in Colourwork. I did go to a Colourwork sort of class at my local yarn shop in the hope that it would sort of, take away that fear of mine. But no. I mean, I like duplicate stitching. That's all right, but it's just a bit laborious. But because I mostly like to sort of relax when I knit, I don't really want to have to concentrate too hard. So yeah, that's why I'm sort of a little bit shy of like Colourwork in general, really. But it is really pretty, and if I could get to a point where I could like just Fair Isle, like, on the fly, that would be great. What is your biggest knitting disaster? I had one a week ago in which I was making some socks and I was decreasing for the gusset, and basically in decreasing I'd put my stitch markers in the wrong place, and I'd also used the wrong decrease, so the work was sort of like, the decrease was like pointing off in the opposite direction to what I wanted it, and it was like sock weight yarn and it wasn't plied yarn, so it was just a mess. But I finished that sock now, so that's quite good. There's also a jumper, actually. My first jumper, I did it in like a really chunky yarn. I did follow a pattern, didn't make a swatch, so that could be a thing. But it wasn't a raglan jumper. I feel like with raglan style jumpers you can't really go too wrong, but with this one it was like you knit like the back piece and then like the front piece, and like basically there was seaming involved, and it just went a bit tits up, to be honest. I need to like, unpick that. Well, I'll have to frog it really, because there's no way I'm wearing it. And it's a nice yarn. It's like, it's chunky, variegated, but with like a rainbow effect to it. So it's not something I would necessarily wear, but I think I've got friends who would probably like it. And then there's just one more question, which is, what is your ultimate knitting goal? That's a good one. I guess if I could become competent at sort of cabling and colour work, that would be really good. But apart from that, I just want to, I'd like to be able to sort of make a jumper for myself that actually fits. That would be really good. Yeah, I'd say that's my goal. So that has been my take on the knitting tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll leave all the questions that I used in the description box. So if anyone wants to sort of use these questions, then, you know, that would be really neat. So yeah, thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. See you next time. Bye for now.